Hey friend, in today's watercolor tutorial, I'm going to be teaching how to paint this waterfall landscape of Haleakala National Park in Hawaii. Without further ado, let's get painting. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be using Naples Yellow, Permanent Rose, Prussian Blue, Hooker's Green, Perylene Green, Ivory Black, and Burnt Umber. The paper that I have taped down here is a size 5 by 7 inches. And for my brushes, I'm going to be using a size 16, size 2, and size 6 round brush by Princeton. I'll also be using some white Winsor Newton gouache. To get started, I just want to do a really faint sketch of our composition for our waterfall. And I am going to just use a little bit of burnt umber. First, I want to outline the silhouette of where our trees are going to go. And I'm just going to do a slight curved line, swoop it downward, and then bring it back up. From here, I'm just going to outline where our trees will end. It's just a really loose sketch here. And then this line is just going to swoop slightly downward. From here, I want to lightly sketch where our waterfall is going to start. We've got a little bit of the waterfall showing in this little square here. Then we've got some of our volcanic rock. And then we've got just a little bit more of our waterfall coming down here. And here we've got a slight pool of water. I'm just going to loosely sketch. Then from here, I am going to have the main event of our waterfall lightly sketched out. And then we've got some of the rock texture towards the left here. And then towards the right, we've got kind of a pool of some water. And there we have our basic sketch of our composition. To get started with our painting, I want to begin with our sunset sky. I'm going to use my size 16 brush to do a nice wash of water. And it's okay if it goes slightly over the sketch line just a little bit. We will overlap some of the greenery of our trees. Looks like I had some brown on there, but it's so faint, it's no big deal. Okay, to start out, I am going to apply some Naples Yellow just in the first inch. Then the next color I want to do is our rose color. And I'm going to start from the top to apply our rose. And then I want to just clean my brush off a bit and just add some color in this transition, some water in this transition, just to get a soft, faint, almost orange sherbet color. If needed, I'm gonna just layer up some more of the Naples Yellow. I've got just this beautiful kind of pink orange hue that's blending up. I'm going to add a touch more of rose. And then I want to add just the faintest amount of Prussian Blue up towards the top. And now I'm just going to clean my brush and just use some clean water on my damp brush to help kind of buff out some of this Prussian Blue to give just a soft gray tinge as the sun is setting. Now I just want to layer a touch more of our rose color, and it can overlap slightly on the Prussian Blue. I'm now going to rinse my brush off and just use some clean water just to help buff out some of that rose. Again, we'll layer some dark green, so it's okay if you go over your sketch just a bit. And then, last but not least, I'm just going to take a touch more of the Naples Yellow and just apply it in a concentrated amount in this area, just where the sun is setting. All right, I'm just gonna let our sky dry. And in the meantime, I wanna start on our volcanic rock. So for the base of the volcanic rock, I'm gonna just do a simple wash of burnt umber to start on both areas of the volcanic rock on either side of our waterfall. All right, and then from here, I want to switch gears to my size 6 brush, and I want to start to add some of our black, and I'm going to start to add it alongside the edges of where our waterfall will be. I'm going to allow the black to just organically kind of bleed out. And I'm going to do the same thing on the right side as well. And I'm going to bring this black area up just slightly. And I'm going to do just maybe a second layer of the black. Okay, then from here, I'm going to take my size 6 brush and I just want to organically just place some black and allow it to just bleed out. I'm going to do kind of a rough edge up towards the top here. I'll do the same thing on this right side while our brown is still damp. So I'm just using the belly of my size 6 brush to just tap out and overlap on this brown wash. Now I'm just gonna let our volcanic rock, this first kind of base layer of the rock, to dry along with the sunset. And when we come back, we will start our greenery and work on our waterfall. Now to get started on our green foliage, we're gonna use a combination of Hooker's Green and Perylene Green. But real quick, I just wanna re-sketch the outline for our greenery. It's gonna go all the way to the rim of the volcanic rock, but I'm just gonna bring it slightly upward here. Then it's gonna slope back down slightly, and then it's gonna go back up. Just like so. And then it's gonna also meet this point here. This will be the start of our waterfall, just right towards the right. Right towards the right, that's funny. Anywho, now I'm just gonna do a wash of Hooker's Green. I'm just using my size 6 brush to fill it in nicely. It's a really beautiful, vibrant, kind of tropical green. Then from here, I want to take my size 2 brush and I want to do some leafy texture on the top rim there. So I'm just going to take my size 2 brush with the Hooker's Green and just give some irregular, almost dot-like texture with some of the sunset peeping through. Okay, and while the greenery is still a little bit damp, I want to take some Perylene Green as kind of my shadow color. So just continuing with the size 2 brush, I just want to add some more depth to the greenery, starting with this left side in the corner area. I'm gonna just tap some Perylene Green out just like so, letting it kind of bleed out loosely and organically. And then from here, I just want to carry on by adding just a few areas, especially at the base bottom of the greenery, of the Perylene Green, just to add some texture and some depth to the greenery. Next, I want to start to add some detail and shading to our waterfall. So I want to start by doing a little bit of reflective kind of pink and yellow in a couple areas to reflect the sunset above. So I'm gonna use a little bit of Naples Yellow to start, and just in a few areas, like in this pool here where the waterfall is, I'm gonna start with a little touch of Naples Yellow. And then from here, I wanna add just a touch of it up towards the top here. And then I'm gonna take just a little bit of our rose color. I'm just gonna add a few pops of rose and just allow it to kind of bleed and settle. And then from here, I want to start to add some shading. And so I'm gonna use just a touch of Perylene Green and maybe just a hair bit of some watered down black. And I'm gonna start first with the Perylene Green. And I just wanna add a couple streaks of some watered down Perylene Green, just kind of towards the left, but just some kind of loose, wavy, vertical lines here. And then I'm gonna wipe my brush off on my paper towel and just slowly kind of buff out this Perylene Green using the belly of my brush just to help soften it. I'm gonna put a little bit of Perylene Green off towards the left and the right. From here, I just want to layer a touch more of the Perylene Green in this little kind of crevice here and shaded area of the waterfall. Next, I want to add a touch of Perylene Green towards the right as like kind of a shaded pool area. Then I'm just going to rinse my brush off, and using a clean damp brush, I'm just going to buff out this transition here. And next, I would like to also buff out this bottom area just slightly. And a little bit on this harsher edge as well. I'm just kind of smoothing out any harsh transitions. Okay. Next, I want to just do a touch of some watered down Perylene Green up high here. I'm just gonna add a little bit of it just to add some shading. And I'll also do a touch of it in this tiny little nook of the top of the waterfall. Okay, next I wanna take some water here and I wanna kind of buff out the transition between the pink, yellow, and the whitewash of the waterfall. So I'm just taking a damp, clean brush and just kind of buffing out that transition. Same for the top of this waterfall here. And then I'm gonna take some watered down black, so just a nice gray, soft gray tone. And I'm gonna add some soft gray on the edges here, just to add some depth to our waterfall. And then I'm just gonna clean off my brush a little bit and just buff out that transition to soften the harsh line. And I'm gonna add a touch more black towards this bottom right area just to give it a little bit more shading. And then I just wanna help soften and blend that area out a little bit more with some water. From here, I'm just gonna add just a touch more texture using the belly of my brush here. incorporating just a little bit more shading with kind of the watered down black, using a little bit of texture, dry brush texture, to add to the waterfall. And then just a touch more in this kind of shaded streak that we added previously. Okay, and now I'm gonna add just a couple areas of black here that are kind of acting as some volcanic rock that are kind of tucked in. So I'm just using the tip of my size 6 brush and just adding a couple touches of black in here. And then I'm just gonna wipe my brush off and just kind of buff out the edges of the bottoms of these rocks, just to help soften the transition of color. And then from here, I'm just gonna add a couple touches of black in this upper waterfall using the tip of my brush. And I'm continuously kind of slowly buffing out any harsh lines just to help soften them. And then just a touch of gray in this lower left corner of the waterfall. And if you ever need to lift any of the shading colors, you could just take a clean dry brush and just apply some pressure just to lift any of the overshaded areas, and that'll help kind of bring about some highlights naturally. Next, I just want to texturize some of our volcanic rock here. So I'm going to go ahead and just mix some black up together using my size 6 brush. And I want to just start to add some irregular brush strokes. And I start by using the tip of my brush to kind of outline a rock formation, just a really loose kind of square or oval shape. But I'm really just keeping it super simple and loose, not overthinking it too much, but I just want some very loose, irregular texture to kind of pop all along the volcanic rock. I'm now going to shade some black along these edges of where the water and the rock meet, just to help add some contrast between the waterfall and the volcanic rock as well. And again, I'm just continuing to layer some just really loose angled kind of brush strokes that are really jagged, just to make the crevices of the volcanic rock have some shadow. And again, as I get closer to the waterfall, I'm kind of shading more of a concentrated amount of black here. gonna do the same thing along this edge as well, just adding a concentrated amount of black. All right, next I want to do a similar thing to the right side of the waterfall. So I'll start with kind of the more shaded areas closest to the edge of the water, just adding a concentrated amount of black. And then I will continue the concentration of black just a little bit more towards this right corner and just fill that in. Then from here, I'm gonna go upward slightly and just shade some of these edges. Okay. Next, I just want to carry over that irregular texture, making some really loose shapes here, some kind of oval shapes with rough edges, some square, allowing kind of that black brown from the burnt umber and the ivory black blend to kind of pop through as a highlight color. All right, and from here, I want to just kind of define some of the edges of the shape of the waterfall. I kind of want to bring this area slightly inward. And I'm just kind of bringing it slightly in by just doing some curvature with this brush stroke here, just to define the shape. And then from here, I kind of want to bring a couple shapes of rocks kind of cutting inward. So I'm just doing a rounded shape at this base, and then I'll do another one just like so. And off on this right edge, I'm just gonna do just a couple curves to mimic some of the irregular shapes of the rocks here, just to make that edge look a little bit more just textured. Okay, and here I just want to soften this edge of this pool here, doing a touch more black. And I just want to layer a couple more touches of black for the rocks that are in the water. And then I'm gonna layer just a little bit more shading with black in this pool towards the right, and then just buffing it out with a touch more water. And then I'm gonna add just a touch more watered down black in this crevice here. And then just a touch more black from the top. And always just kind of blending those out with a clean, damp brush, just to help soften it slightly. And then I'm just adding a few irregular touches of the gray just to add even more texture. Then I'm just going to add a little bit of dry brush gray in this whitewash area here, just to give some shading to the whitewash and a little bit of texture. Alrighty, so for my final touch or last couple elements to the painting, I do want to add a touch more rose with my size 2 brush, just to add a couple loose horizontal kind of touches of the rose color. And then I'm just going to buff it out slightly, just blending it out a touch. And then I'm going to take just the tiniest hint of black, more like a gray, and just add a couple elements of shading with the black, doing these horizontal lines. And then buffing those out with some water as well. Okay, and then from here, I want to do the same thing up top, adding just a touch of some gray here, just like so. And last but not least, I want to add just a touch of some white gouache. This is just going to add a little bit more texture. And I'm going to start with the outside on the left of this waterfall. I just want to add a streak of some just loose, rough-edged gouache. And I'm just going to tap out some of this black here. That's just going to add a little bit more just depth to the waterfalls here. And now I'm going on the outer edge, just adding a touch more of the white gouache. You could also use white acrylic, that would work totally fine. Just an opaque white would help really well. Next, I want to do just a few touches of the white gouache in our waterfall. So I'm just taking my size 2 brush and allowing it to have some texture by kind of buffing out some of the whitewash and allowing this dry brush kind of loose jagged texture to kind of take over, so you could see some of the flecks of white. So it'll just add some really nice texture to the waterfall. And if needed, you can always relayer any of the touches of white. All right, lastly, I'm just gonna go along some of these edges of the black and add just a touch of white gouache. And then I'm gonna take some water on my size 2 brush and smooth out this white layered on top of the black. And this is just gonna create kind of this gray, soft transition blending with the black behind it. And I'm just taking pressure with my size 2 brush and just kind of blending that out just a hair bit. So now we've got this soft gray transition. I'm just going to do a little bit of that on the right side. The last touch I want to add are just a few streaks of water kind of coming off of the rock straight from the pool just above. I'm just gonna do a couple streaks of white gouache on either side of the top here. Kind of stemming from that pool just above. And from there, I'm just gonna buff that out with some clean water. Whoa, as I just catapult my gouache paint tube across the room. I'm just going to take a damp brush and just softly blend these streaks out just a touch. So that way they're not so stark white, but we know that some of the water is kind of coming from in between rocks. So I'm just loosely tapping and buffing this out with the damp size 2 brush. And then just bringing it downward into the waterfall. Thank you so much for joining me for today's tutorial of Haleakala National Park in Hawaii. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any further watercolor tutorials.